Hi, and welcome to my unpopular opinions. So, I decided to cut this big topic into two parts. In the first part, I just talked about friendships. And in this part, I'm going to talk about romantic relationships in our life and what I think about them. So, what do I think about romantic relationships? I think that they are fucking complicated. I hear a lot, like especially like nowadays, a lot of people are complaining about their relationships. A lot of people are breaking up. A lot of people cannot meet someone, cannot find someone. They struggle with dating people. They look for commitment. They don't look for commitment. They struggle. Like all kinds of things are happening, and it's pretty intense. And as well interesting to observe, of course, and experience. And as I mentioned in my previous video about relationships, please watch it. I guess I can just edit somewhere here. It's very complex and it's very complicated, and I struggle to define relationships at this point in my life. I thought that a romantic relationship is pretty fucking clear, and I used to date to get married. Like, whenever I fell in love with someone, which was not happening very often, um, I just felt like this is forever. This is the thing. I never wanted to date around. I never wanted to go on dates with random guys. It's not fun for me. I always looked for a deeper connection. I always wanted to really get to know the person. I really wanted to like to dive into their depth, to really support them. I feel like I do believe in unconditional love, and I kind of feel like I have had experience of loving unconditionally, but I struggle to say that I was loved unconditionally back, based on the fact that the relationship is over. Probably not, and I would say that the reason for a breakup was very much conditional. But I really love the concept of unconditional love. I think that we are, as humans, are very slowly, but we are moving in that direction. I feel like generally as humans again, I don't know if it's the same for animals, bugs, and plants, or objects, or whoever else experiences romantic love. I feel that as humans, we really feel very possessive of the person we have feelings for. And especially generally, like toxic masculine men also tend to, oh, I want her, I love her, I own her. But women also get very, very possessive, and it's like, okay, we are together because I want us to be together. I don't care what you want. That happens a lot, and it's pretty fucked up. And also, even if both people want to be together, it still doesn't mean that we own the other person. It doesn't mean that we fully know the other person. It takes a really long time for us to get to know ourselves, and we're with ourselves our whole life. So don't expect to know somebody in 2 months or 3 years. There are lots of things that even if you talk a lot, that still you're not going to know about them. There's a lot of cheating happening. People cheat more and more, and it becomes more and more, like you learn about these kinds of things. And well, I have been cheated on. I was cheated on in my first relationship, so like, I got this experience pretty early on in my life. And I was also cheated with, and it actually happened that while I was cheated with, I was also cheated on. So the guy actually had like three girls at the same time. Like, I never wanted to become a mistress. I never wanted to have this kind of experience. But like when you have strong feelings, and also it's not just somebody you just met, and it's not just passion. Like, you really like share a lot of things. You share a lot of experiences together, and you really talk a lot, like about a lot of things. What does it make me think about this? Because I of course I thought about it, and of course I analyzed. And I hear lots of other situations where people have cheated on their partners and didn't communicate well, and it became like a very bad kind of situation and story and all of that. So like I'm really curious about how it all works, and now like what I think is that generally people are not very good at communicating with each other. And generally, like if you're in a romantic relationship, there's a lot of pressure we put on the partner, there is a lot of pressure that our partner puts on us, and there is a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves and they put on themselves, and there's just like a lot of pressure and a lot of shame, a shame that we carry from our families and grandparents and everywhere. And as simple as that, like when people who have been together are not feeling comfortable enough sharing that they're not really satisfied with the sex life. And I would say that typically, especially if we talk about like heterosexual relationships, that women generally like do you know that not all women can even orgasm, which is fucking crazy, right? Right, it is crazy, but it is a fact. It's fucking science. And that's like many women don't even enjoy sex. Like for us as women, it's more complicated. It's first of all this emotional connection and all these kinds of stuff. And well, yeah, like I would say that the partner has to put way more effort into pleasing a woman than a woman has to put to please a man. And the thing is that generally, as I have observed, men just don't really like putting effort much, generally, into many things. And it's very common that usually women, but not limited to women, of course, uh, struggle to communicate their needs, that they have never had an orgasm or that they are not enjoying something. There is a lot of shame and fear and um, lots of these very bad feelings that come up. And yeah, they are just too terrified to share this information with their partner, which only causes more and more misery. Men generally, statistically, cheat more often or are caught more often. Um, Also, might not be satisfied in bed. And instead of figuring it out, communicating it with their partner, it's easier to go and cheat. Right? Right? I mean, it is easier. It is much easier, and it's also more exciting because like when you are in a relationship, and especially if you live together, and you have to deal with all this household, all these kinds of shit, like it's not sexy, right? It's not fun, and it's easier to be attracted to somebody you don't know. I mean, it is true, unfortunately. And I would say that people in relationships really have a hard time communicating their needs to each other, which leads to infidelity. And I would say that like having sex with somebody doesn't hurt as much as developing an actual emotional connection to somebody. While both of them hurt a lot, I would say that for me, like a physical intimacy with somebody hurts less than emotional. And as bad as people generally are at like communicating their needs to their partner, which would actually make it much easier for everybody involved, many people are actually very bad at communicating their own needs to themselves. And if you cannot figure it out for yourself, like sometimes when you can figure it out for yourself, you can still struggle to communicate it to the partner. But when you are not figuring it out for yourself and you're not completely honest and open with yourself, then there is no way you can communicate it to your partner. And then people are cheating, people are lying, people are doing lots of crazy things. And of course, it brings a lot of heartbreak, lots of hard feelings, and all these kinds of things. But like, if we just were more clear with each other, with ourselves, and with each other, it would have been much easier, right? Because also seeing people suffering from heartbreak and breakups for a really long time, I mean, it's also like it shouldn't be that way. And I'm not invalidating feelings and hurt feelings, but it's all the unmet expectations. And the more uncertainty you have about the person, the more expectations you create to fill in those gaps. And then these expectations are not met, and like your psyche tries to compensate for all these unfulfilled expectations. So when I hear a cheating story, I don't just jump into accusations immediately, because it's usually more complicated than that. Uh, and some people really do not know how to end one relationship before starting another, and that does not mean that in the new relationship they will have the same problem. It maybe sometimes we just meet the right person a little later than we thought that we would. And sometimes some relationships don't last, and as I said in my previous video about friendships, like some relationships are meant to be short and they're meant to teach us something, and they're not meant to last. And a long relationship does not equal a good relationship. There are lots of people who are staying in dysfunctional, toxic, unfunctioning relationships for a long time, but that, like, it might seem like, oh, they've been together for 10, 15, 20, 50 years, but that does not mean that this has been a good relationship. It does not mean that it's a relationship you would want to be in. So it's all complicated. That's what that's all I'm trying to say here, backing it up with examples. And cheating itself, it's also a very complex thing, because define cheating. There are people in polyamorous relationships, so technically you can cheat or be cheated on in a polyamorous relationship, but technically also depending on your relationship and communication level, of course. But I feel like I have to make a separate video about polyamory, because I have a lot of things to say. And just to touch it very like quickly, let's say there are two people, they love each other, they don't want to break up, but one of them developed feelings for somebody else as well, and developing feelings for a second person doesn't always cancel having feelings for the first person. I know that it doesn't work this way for everybody, but there are people like that, and it's really hard to tell whether you're one of them or not, because like we don't grow up knowing about polyamory. Like, um, I would say like what, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I didn't even know the word polyamory. I wrote an awesome post. I actually have a video also here where I read it out loud. It's called Polygamy in Love. It's not about loving another person, it's about loving one partner and loving yourself. But, like, technically, I mean, term polyamory fits here better, but I did not know it. Because polygamy is technically like having sex, right? And polyamory is about having feelings and not necessarily having sex. Because polyamory is interesting and it's also very complex. There are lots of different kinds, and the good thing is that you get to decide which kind of a polyamorous person you are. And I guess if you're taking this path, you also get to explore a lot and see that, oh, maybe like that didn't work for me, but there is another way how it can work for me. And I think it's the same in exclusive relationships as well, right? If you are like super comfortable in a relationship, or there are some things you're not satisfied with, because let's be honest, it's impossible for one single person to tick all the boxes that you have. And it is also not fair to you to ignore some of the boxes that you have. And I think that if you have a really good communication with each other and love and respect, you will be both willing to figure out ways on how you can keep your good functioning relationship, but also like, fit all these needs that you have, whether they're social, sexual, romantic, any kinds of things. Like, for example, you really want your partner to enjoy your hobby with you, but they really hate your hobby, and you kind of want somebody like special to share it with, but apparently it's not your partner, right? But you have a great relationship and you love each other and all the other things are great. So that is not a reason to break up, but it's also not a reason not to have a person in your life who you can share this hobby with, right? Or like, let's say your partner is not romantic, but it's a really great person whom you really love and you really trust and you're really good friends, and everything else is great, but they're not romantic, and it really feels forced and it really feels uncomfortable when you try to make them be romantic. If you openly communicate it, you can figure out ways of how you can both make it work, maybe in some other ways, or maybe like literally to just go on some platonic romantic dates with other person, or maybe actually trying polyamory. I don't like, polyamory is like so complex as well. Like, it doesn't have to be so sexual, it doesn't have to be. You define, you and the people involved are defining it, whatever it is for you, right? So it doesn't have to be one person who meets all the requirements you have, um, but it can be communicated and there can be ways to figure it out. And I think if we really are willing and are able to communicate it well, even if it doesn't work out, and even if we break up, and even if this person chooses someone else over you, it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't have to be a very, very long heartbreak. It doesn't have to do this much damage that would require this much healing. Because also, I think when you communicate clearly, and even if you don't find a compromise that would work for both of you, and even if it leads to you breaking up, I feel like this kind of a breakup also, like this kind of clarity that you get after you communicated well, after you gave it some time, after you put in the work and you tried, both of you, not just you alone, then it doesn't hurt that much because you really accept the fact that this person doesn't owe you anything, and you don't own this person. You don't own their feelings. You do not own anything about them. And you have been together because you both chose to. And just like that, you can always choose to not be together anymore, even if one of you chooses that and the other one doesn't want to. So I think it also gives you a bigger perspective, and sets some kind of a big boundary that is very important, that this person doesn't owe you anything and you do not own them. I'm repeating myself because this is really important to keep in mind. And I would say that it really also kind of spices things up in a way, because, well, we love a familiar person, but we also like the possibility of somebody we just met, somebody we don't know anymore, somebody who we don't know snores or doesn't like taking out trash or throws their socks around the house or doesn't fix broken electronics or something like that. This is not sexy, but like somebody we don't know that about yet, it is sexy. And I would say that this kind of clarity and honesty, it kind of adds this sexiness to your partner, and it also like sparks this spark again. So I feel like even if it doesn't lead to the result that you want, it still gives you this important perspective that will help you process a breakup, if it leads to a breakup, easier, or will make you really look at this person in a similar way that you looked at them when you just met and were developing your relationship. And I don't know, it's just beneficial in every possible way, in my very humble, unpopular opinion. There are many relationships, especially romantic ones, that, well, I mentioned that I believe in unconditional love. I feel like it is really, really possible, but um we're really, really far from that. Let's say the least. And most of romantic connections that we see in the world nowadays, and especially before, they're more like trauma bonds rather than actual love. It has to do more with attachment style rather than, like, it's closer to the trauma bond rather than unconditional love. So we're somewhere in between, but still we're closer to the trauma bond. And Attachment styles is something that some people know of and some people don't, and it's really beneficial to know your attachment style and to work on it. So there are three main types, which is which are anxious, um, avoidant, and healthy. There is also anxious avoidant, but it is a little bit complicated, and I'm not a therapist. So I'll just go through these ones very quickly because this is a very important information to share. And I'm very happy I learned it about myself. It's been very, very fucking helpful. So, anxious type is mostly common in heterosexual women generally, but of course, people of all genders experience it. Anxious type is when you are literally anxious, when you basically do not believe that you deserve to be loved for who you are, when the other person that you are interested in, you might not even have a relationship with yet, but if they don't respond to you immediately, it freaks you out. If they don't text you whenever you feel like they should text you, it freaks you out. If they are not with you, then you believe that they're probably cheating on you, they're with someone else. Um, Basically, your core belief in this kind of with this thing is that you just basically do not believe that you deserve love. And all these types, they also come from family usually, and they usually develop during the first years of your life, based on the relationship with your parents. And if you had to always deserve love and praise from your parents and couldn't do that, very likely you develop an anxious type, in case you keep trying hard to get your parents' attention and love. Same happens with the avoidant type, and it's also when you are avoid. Well, it's not also, but like it's when you're literally avoid love and close connection with somebody, because you also didn't get love much from your parents, not as much as you needed and wanted, and you learned to cope with it exactly the opposite way. Instead of trying too hard, you're just withdrawing. You're like, oh, you don't give me love, okay, like I'm not gonna try. Like they're just like pushing their parent away before they get pushed away by the parent, which is also like, it does make sense, it does make sense. And then in adult relationships with romantic partners, they do the same. They might be very involved, they might be in love with you, but they are also so terrified with by love, that they will push you away. Like the harder the feelings, uh, the hard, the more intense the feelings, the um the more they will be the ones who are disappearing, they will be the ones who will be pushing you away. And funnily enough, anxious and avoidant type are like a really great trauma bond, like super popular. Super popular, like they really kind of, like they attract each other like magnets. I used to be an anxious type. Oh my god, that was bad. Like it was the fucking end of the world because honestly, it never felt really uh like I was really safe in the relationship. I always like felt that, oh my god, they will leave, they will find somebody better. I'm not good enough. I have to work really hard to earn their love. It's exhausting and it's bad, and like it really made me physically sick if, let's say, like my partner was withdrawing and like was not picking up the phone, or was like said like, oh, I'll call you like at 7, and then it's 7:20 and they're not calling, like freaking out, like like not being able to sleep if they didn't send me good night and they were supposed to. And like it's crazy, it was driving me crazy. It's really bad, and you should really look into it if you have either of those or somehow the combination, which I really recommend you to look into. And there is a healthy style, healthy attachment type or style, which is literally what it's called. It's healthy. It has boundaries, it has respect, it has clarity, it has good communication. You don't need to prove anything. You should be yourself. I think it's closer to like kind of unconditional love. Good news for those who do not have a healthy attachment style. You can really work on your attachment style while you are single, but once you get into a relationship, all the things that don't pop up while you're single, they will pop up. So, being with a healthy attachment style partner is very beneficial because it really helps you to heal your attachment style. The question is whether the healthy attached person will want to deal with a person who is not healthily attached. Very often they do. Very often they do, because love is not just about attachment styles, but attachment styles can really, really affect the relationship in many ways. So I really recommend to look into it, read about it, watch some videos, ask your therapist. If you don't have a therapist, get a therapist, ask them about that, because it really, really helps you to get a much better perspective on how you act in relationships, what kind of partners you choose, because you might notice a pattern that you might be choosing basically the same kind of partner all the time in different people, and it will really, really improve the quality of your life, your love life, and your general life as well. Situationships, like they tend to hurt us more than actual real relationships. But you know why? I feel like because in a real relationship you actually get to know the person, and none of us are perfect, and you get to know their traumas, you get to know their coping mechanisms, you get to learn their annoying traits and all this shit, and it's kind of hard to be super attracted to a person who like does some weird things that you don't really like, and I'm saying like just normal weird things. uh while in a situationship, you just have this idea of a perfect person who's just a little bit unavailable. I would say that it's also often about the anxious type. Like you're just anxiously attached to this kind of avoidant person who is so hot, and you are so attached to this possibility of what might happen but never happens. And then of course it hurts because fantasy was so much more attractive than the reality that you had with an actual partner. So it's yeah, it's a like normally logically you would think that people would generally suffer from a breakup of an actual long relationship, but no, probably you usually go through all this mourning and annoyance and everything while you're still in the relationship, because also somehow it's like it's always harder to end a longer relationship because you kind of have invested so much, and you kind of hope to get back those investments. So very often those breakups happen within the relationship. Actually, the relationship really like dies before it ends, so it's easier to get out there. And situationships can be really fucking hard because again, fantasies are so fun. So I guess that's all I wanted to say about relationships. At this point, I feel like I'm kind of losing my voice because I recorded the video for about friendships just before this. So yeah, let me know if you disagree with some of the things. I'm here for a conflict. No, I'm here just to share opinions, my opinions, your opinions, and I know that people will disagree with my opinions. I'm curious whether anybody agrees. And since I shared so many opinions here, I mean, you might agree and disagree with me both at the same time, some Schrodinger stuff. Um, so yeah, relationships are complicated but interesting. Working on relationship with yourself is, well, probably relationship with yourself is the most important one, and it actually dictates all the other relationships you have with other people. So become your own friend, become your own lover, become your own cool person, become your own support, and the people you will attract will be much cooler and better than the ones you attract before doing this. So subscribe, like, and everything. If you want to, of course, I would really like it if people who liked this video in their heads would also like them where the like button is. But of course, it's not super important. But apparently, it helps you promote your stuff and become more visible on the internet. So if you want to balance this exchange here, because the laws of universe, like, better do not disobey them. Then you know what to do. We all know how technology works. If we like content, we engage with it. If we don't, we also engage with it in a different way. We share it and say, "Oh, this is such a stupid fucking video. She's so dumb," or like, "Oh, dislike, whatever." But yeah, I think that it's fun and I'm gonna like this video. If I could subscribe to my own channel, I would be subscribed to it a long time ago. So, see you in other videos where I share my opinion on different kinds of things. Bye!